Okay,
Good.
I think I'm more or less set.
Okay.
And I'm gonna reset and make sure I'm in, voila. So I worked on what kind of application of AI we could get in animation production, and especially in 2D animation production, since it's my field, and how it might influence teaching and teaching 2D animation. I'm hoping it will be a little bit broader. I think it can be useful for people working with video game, for example. And I hope it's not going to be too technical because I'm going to go through the workflow. So yeah, just let me know if you want me to go faster or if you think it's, I don't know, too technical, just let me know. Each new technological innovation creates new practices and make some specialized skills obsolete. And right now, it is still difficult to know with certainty how the professions of animations will be impacted by AI and on what horizon. Until then, AI is changing our relationship to image and to its production, and is already impacting our teaching practices. And beyond the fears and fantasies that accompany any technomyth, I will list the questions that AI already posed to us in the teaching of animated cinema, how we have begun to integrate it to AR, and which field require or will require forward thinking about their future development in the face of these innovations. I will have a look at what fields are at risk of automation and which might be augmented, and what we should prepare ourselves and our students for. So, panic in the teacher's room. Artificial intelligence has just made a big leap in terms of image synthesis, and this does not fail to fuel the debates in the teacher's room and among my colleagues. The use of AI by students, but also by ourselves, requires us to position ourselves. AI will make certain skills obsolete, but it is still difficult to identify them with certainty. We also know that production will take several years to adapt, and we want to prepare our students for what's to come on one hand, but we also don't want to speed up a process that might endanger future jobs, actually. The source I will be using are international reports commissioned by institutions, also research article and a lot of Chinese article, actually. These sources are numerous, the Chinese ones, and sometimes they are difficult to assess because of poor translation, and sometimes they have obvious propaganda in them. But I think they are still interesting because they give a good view of the aspirations of the sector. And I also focused on the news of the profession and the news about AI. I have not been able to test all the AI applications that I came across, but I will just, well, so far I will just observe their promises, and I hope to be able to investigate with my students and maybe also on personal projects. I noticed that institutions have been preparing for the wave to rise for like 10 years or and sometimes more. So like, yeah, it's been on the broader for a while. China is actively working to position themselves as leader in AI, so it's going to be a big push strength. And the magnitude of the paradigm shift is sometimes compared to the invention of electricity, especially in the European report. And so, yeah, so we are they are expecting changes as huge as electricity in labor and in society as a whole. so we should get prepared. In wage labor and capital, Karl Marx describes how machinism impacts labor. So the more divided into small tasks the work is, the easier it becomes. The skill of the worker loses its value. Some skills become obsolete, which put workers in competitions. More people can do the same job, compensating by working faster or working more hours, put the employees in competitions with oneself, worsening one's own working conditions, and people have to find new jobs elsewhere. So this is precisely what fuels anxiety right now around AI technologies. So it also reminds what Victor Sardigli says about technomyth. So like any technological innovation, AI carries its share of technomyths, and we could hear that AI will free creators from human script tasks, but they also doom them to feeding it. It will allow information to be processed more quickly, but it is a fact. But it is a factory for fake news and surveillance. It is a personal assistant, but our data is privatized or exploited, and so on. People who could not produce the images they imagine because of physical limitation or access to artistic education can now do so thanks to AI, but by plundering the work of other artists and making creators more precarious. The promise of an acceleration of the realization of projects will come at the cost of more competition and a risk of standardization and saturation of the market with mediocre production. Authors could access more independence and creative autonomy, but with the risk of more isolation and independence on entrepreneur work and forced entrepreneurship. And so in an article for Stanford Graduate School of Business, Hope Rees puts into tension the notion of augmentation versus automation. The augmentation, computer-assisted creation or manufacturing, etc., is what will allow inclusive growth, while automation will accentuate the current negative economic trends, and it is indeed in this opposition that the technomyths are articulated. And so, yeah, what we have to look at is what task will be automated and what task will be augmented. So, first, what probable impact on teaching as a whole? So, are teachers obsolete? The thing is, each technological innovation is accompanied by a fantasy of supplementing or ideally replacing teachers, like cinema, video, radio, internet, computer. Each time they arise, there was this idea that it would change education and maybe replace teachers, and AI is no exception. However, learning does not seem to be possible without human support. You have to learn, and someone has to teach you that. Moreover, it has been established that the emotional and affective dimension is essential to any attempt at transmission, group emulation, motivation, exchange, peer pressure, etc. So AI could be used for data analyzing and giving reports to the students. So it's personalization plus active learning. That is the goal. The use of AI could promote active learning, where students themselves regulate their learning based on the results of this data processing. In this model, teachers are designers of educational content. Face-to-face teaching is no longer a necessity for the sole transmission of knowledge, and the learner is put in a situation to learn by themselves, by problem solving, looking for intel by themselves, and ideally learning as a group. So this monitoring of students, it could also lead to the monitoring of the teachers, and it poses serious ethical problems. So it is data processing. Who owns the data? What about privacy? It is monitoring, so it is surveillance. Not to mention problems of bias, inequality in access to technology, cost, etc. So those are things that comes again and again in the different reports, Europe, China, etc., and US. So in this report about China, United States, and India, the instructors are facilitators and motivators, not information providers. And actually, during the pandemic, we may have wondered if, as teachers, we were becoming a peculiar form of streamers. So we might have to learn how to use the tools that AI provide to produce multimedia educational contents more quickly. And maybe there will be a transformation of our role, and it is likely that we will have to handle new tools. So our role and our ways of teaching may be radically transformed, and potentially so will the way we will earn our money, and what kind of status do we have as teachers. So of course, it's in case it actually make any change. The last breakthrough in technology didn't change our work that much. So maybe that's a bit paranoid. And yeah, so in the end, AI in teaching, the aim is the teaching system must then promote collective exchange. So I mean, if we want to implement AI in our teaching, we must promote collective exchange, especially remote. And we need to implement communication tools between students, and the teacher focuses on the transmission of learning strategy, cultivating critical thinking and creativity, design thinking, spirit of innovation, and so on. I will stress that this is a recurrent idea in Chinese article. So right now they identified that they will need to cultivate critical thinking among their students if they want to like survive the AI revolution, sort of. What about art teaching? So art, yeah. So education in the field of culture, entertainment, and art are among the least likely to be exposed to AI automation. So there is this web report that you can look up that shows the different work jobs that will be impacted by AI. And actually, culture, entertainment, arts are the least likely to be. Well, they will be, but not as much as other fields. So AI remains difficult to implement in artistic education, especially because we transmit a practice on the one hand, and this practice integrates both subjectivity, expert gesture, and critical analysis of what is produced. Among the fields that are little or not impacted by innovation related to AI, we find skills of analysis and critical thinking on the one hand, and manual practices on the other hand, which basically constitute the whole art field. So this is a citation. At the current stage, the development of AI technology is not mature enough. Technologies such as student emotion perception technology, simulated art teacher technology, intelligent learning companion technology, and other technologies that people wish to achieve in the field of art teaching are still under exploration. but they are under exploration, as weird as it can sound. AI can help people to some extent, but it can't replace our thoughts, which is exactly the unique value of human beings. Modern AI education can't perfectly achieve semantic analysis, sentiment analysis, and symbiotic analysis. Our art forms are diversified and ever-changing with the time, but the essence of art won't change. In terms of creation and appreciation, artworks are generally based on subjective thinking. Therefore, in terms of aesthetics appreciation, AI is deficient in the evaluation of the artwork of students. So that's the big problem, actually. How do we evaluate art? And so how can we automate evaluating art? It's one of the main problems of how to implement AI in art teachings. So yeah, I've tried ChatGPT in painting analysis. So this one is a David. I use it for initiation on artwork analysis because it is pretty straightforward. If you look closely at the composition, you can pretty much guess what it's saying. And ChatGPT was okay with the mainstream intel, like the historical background and stuff, but was unable to explain, to use the to explain the symbolics of the woman, and that's because he can't analyze the contrast between the different characters. So in such an easy sort of painting, he's doing a very poor job around the symbolics, even though there are articles online that talk about the symbolics of the woman. And he's just using generalities about white and how women protect innocence and stuff like that. So AI could help with the writing of courses anyway. I tested ChatGPT for a plan for this very communication as an experiment. I didn't really use it, to be honest. The result is very standardized and lack the expert knowledge of the discipline. However, the use after a first brainstorming helped me to first structure the presentation. And secondly, it allowed me to explore more general articles on AI, on education and artistic education, which I might have taken more time to discover. The biography was totally false, but using the titles, I found very interesting articles, even though the one in the biography didn't exist. So I think AI could be used to facilitate, and in the context of interactive teaching, AI could be used to facilitate access to artistic culture, but it's more or less the only breakthrough that they had, considering the difficulty to implement AI in art teaching. So that would be some kind of augmented version of internet usage. So yeah, so it could help for us artists and also for students or technicians. It could help us to be more structured in the way we write, especially if we don't have any academic methodology. And it could also be useful for plans and dramaturgical structure if we pay attention to the fact that it gives us a very standardized plan. It helps to identify the average opinion on a subject, and it can also be a way to make sure we didn't forget something essential on a subject. The problem being the standardized output that it gives. So AI is interesting as a creative tool, but we quickly reach forms of standardization, whether for text or for image. For example, in this artist, Neptunian Glitterball, he's making a very interesting, like retro futurist kind of photography. But as soon as he started making this kind of pictures, other people started digging the same field, and so we started to see more and more of this kind of imagery, even though it was interesting and surprising at the beginning. Anyway, it's still using those image synthesizers are still a good way to provoke serendipity and unexpected combination. I'm going maybe to pass this part about AI and creativity. I will just stress the fact that there is a risk when we use AI of functional fixation bias and availability bias, especially in the technical fields. So if we, functional fixation bias is that once a thing is perceived for a specific purpose, it is more difficult to divert it for another use. So a tool will be used as the tool it has been learned to be used, and it will be harder to use it in another direction. So it kind of kills the creativity on the use of tools. And the availability bias is how the brain tends to use immediately available information rather than making the effort to access other cognitive resources. So that would also be a way to get very standardized results. So if the students or us as teachers use AI too early in the process, we might fall in this bias and get less creative, which should be what makes us competitive facing AI. So what about animation and 2D animation? So animation professions are art and entertainment, okay, but they are also very technological and in fact very exposed to AI. In addition, the impact of AI will depend on the adoption of these technologies by the business concerned, and this factor is difficult to anticipate. And the fact that China is aiming at an acceleration of the use of AI in film production might have consequences on a global scale. For the moment, China produces mainly for its domestic market, but Western festivals have recently seen beautiful and very interesting Chinese production, and some of which have had real success at the box office, like the one like Neza. And it is possible that the qualitative improvement of the recent years will make China a major player with a real impact in terms of competition, and thus change in production could occur with the push through with AI in China. Right now, there are automation strategies that exist similar to what AI can do, and they are already used in the audiovisual production, like this application of art direction with Absinthe or MOE by Les Films du Poisson Rouge à Angoulême. Automatic interpolation also, such as Udo or Flow Frame. AI promises an acceleration of these treatments, which meet a real need. The intervals are costly steps of little added value for the technician who have to do them, and automatic painter allow more freedom for original graphic styles. So acceleration on those films would be nice. A few artists already made some interesting works with AI. such as this one. And ah oui, il faut que j'éteigne le son de ce truc. Sorry. So yeah, so there have been a few experiments this film went in Annecy, for example, and some other used AI in an interesting direction, like this clip from the N-Word that is called Edge of Illusion, that is using a kind of images we have seen a lot lately, but in a very interesting way, considering the title of the song and the story it is telling, Edge of Illusion. It works very well with this theme. Lastly, among things, there was this film that from Netflix Japan that kind of gave a lot of outrage because the backgrounds are made with the help of AI, supposedly because there is a shortage of artists in Japan. And yeah, the answer was, yeah, there's a shortage in Japan because you don't pay correctly your artists. But anyway, the artwork has been made with the help of AI. Another question that arises, will there be animation on demand? So we already have a few text to animation projects that are for now quite mediocre. They are mostly animation engines, but we can maybe expect that at some point the users will be able to type the kind of animation they want, and they will resave some things according to this description. Right now, it's more something like animation bank, so stuff like that. It's not very good, but it will get better. Another example is something I made for this, well, I asked for this presentation, and you just, it's a text to animation app that you can use online, and it also probably uses animation banks, and you just write what you want, and it hands out a didactic video, which looks pretty sleek and corporate. So yeah, and it happened in a few minutes. So anything scriptable can be simulated. Well, anything that is scriptable or that can be simulated by a mathematical model is likely to see the emergence of an AI app. The real problem remains that the AI does not do exactly what we want. Text is not enough to guide it. The design part must be produced by humans, and even then, what is produced requires editing, like even those animation banks, well, they have been made by someone. We are not at the point where, well, I mean, sort of, but yeah, someone has to produce the source at the beginning. Just checking on the time. So impact on the 2D pipeline. So that's now that I'm going to become very technical. So the current application of AI mainly concern the 3D workflow. And okay, 3D did not kill 2D. At some point we thought it would, but there is still an appetite for graphic and non-photorealistic forms. And we can expect that 2D will always have its place, all the more if the human intervention takes on value in a world where everything is made by robots. Well, I mean, that's my wish, but I think it's not totally crazy. So pre-production. So writing, we can use ChatGPT for that, with the risk of repeating scenario recipes, and also enhancing the attention economy in a form of more easy consumable animated products. But it can also be an help to structure and understand the basic dramaturgic structure. As far as storyboard is concerned, it's very not convincing right now. Disney Lab Research presented a script to storyboard output on Unreal, but it's very rough. There's this app that ambition to create webcomics. I thought maybe it could be used to make storyboarding, but it only produces very generic images and posings, so very not convincing for storyboard. And actually, all the apps that aim at making storyboard are unconvincing right now. So this one is a little bit more like the user have a little bit more power on what's going on. And this one could be maybe the best right now. But when we look at what they produce, it's more what I would call a prédécoupage than an actual storyboard. There's no sense of framing, no sense of raccord, no sense of editing. It's really, well, I believe that it would be faster to use a sketch than to try to use those apps for the same results. So maybe at some point they will implement it with maybe champ contre champ, and because there are some part of cinematographic language that are sort of standardized, so it could be implemented like that. But right now, from my point of view, we'd do better by writing. Animatics, nothing exists yet. We have things that synchronize sound and images. It could be maybe hijacked for animatics, but concept and art direction are what is most used right now. So image synthesis software is quite efficient for fairly standardized images. I tried some of them on Stable Diffusion according to a project I'm doing right now. I'm getting better results when I introduce personal drawings to the project, but it stays very far from my personal style, even though here it's getting closer. I also did the mermaid tests because they really create very monstrous mermaids, so I find it a good test to see how good AI synthesis is. And from one of my drawing, but it's the result is that it's making very standardized results, more standardized than what I do. So yeah, that's my takeout. It creates slick stuff very fast, but in a very mainstream style. So yeah, we can either make artistic direction from scratch and then enhance it on AI, or no. We can ask for serendipity by making it on AI, or we can hand make them and then apply AI generation to it. By the way, right now, writing the right definition is already a job. This is an ad on Fiverr for a guy who does that. Model sheet, it's okay if you want something very generic, but as soon as you ask for something a little bit more like here historical or something, it makes very quirky stuff. It's good at rigid and expressionless poses, such as what is found on ArtStation or for cinema or video game concepts. And could we use it for model sheet? There's this app that is called Character Nurse that pretend to make consistent turnaround, but if you look closely, it's very not consistent, and it actually makes the same mistake as us when we try to make a turn. We have problem with the feet, problem with the articulation, how the arms are away from the body, and that was quite a good example here. They were a lot worse. So right now, we can compensate these problems using a posing tool like Open Pose Editor. And here again, it's a lot longer and more tedious than making a sketch. So sketching is not an obsolete skill yet. In production, we have text-to-voice that would be useful for working soundtrack. So that's something we can make with AI. Layout and background. So this is from the Netflix Japanese short film earlier. So they used hand-drawn layout, then they used AI generation to enhance it, and then they rework it at the end by human touch, retouching. So yeah, we can actually imagine mixed processes from sketches to image generated from artistic direction produced by humans. There are tools that allow us to do stuff like that, like Firefly, NVIDIA, Adobe Firefly stuff. NVIDIA started developing, and props and assets can probably be treated in the same way, going back and forth between human and AI. What about animation? So animation conception, right now, we don't have very convincing stuff. There are a lot of studies around movement generation. But everything that we are seeing right now are pretty crappy. So either it's a refined form of rotoscoping from video sources, or else it's very mediocre animation libraries that we can expect will get better as time goes by. AI motion generation strategy covers two fields: physical simulation, gravity, crowd, fluids, and so on, and motion captures from videos or real-time video streams. Video game and other interactive interfaces use third field data-driven animation techniques, which are bank of movements. Current models recognize a signature of human characterization and can produce individualized movement depending on the subject, but it is limited, and it's actually limited to realistic kind of movement characters and stuff. So the following citations are from machine learning and data-driven movement generation, this article. So humans are able to perform a broad range of movements with intricate modulation that come from various factors, such as the physical characterization of the mover or his affective state, intention, and plans. No computational model is yet capable of learning and generating all types of movement with every possible modulation. Research on movement generation, therefore, is done on relatively small and constrained subset of all possible movement and scenarios. One reason for which I don't think AI is going to replace animator anytime soon is that video motion is similar to rotoscopy and carries the same problem. The realism of natural motion doesn't work well with the graphic style. If you, on the very interesting piece that I'm showing you right now, if you look at the extreme moves, like when the characters try to jump, it really doesn't work because it would need a more extreme move to work. So the really, Sébastien Denis had already underlined this idea a few years ago. Furthermore, motion capture requires additional equipment. We need physical rigs and actual stuff to carry the actors to produce the extreme movement that are necessary for 3D special effects and action scenes and stuff. So working from video requires either highly trained people, so movement specialists of some kind and complex equipment, or facilitator that would be animators to enhance the movement. So the design phase of the movement does not seem to be able to be done without humans, regardless of the strategies chosen. What about clean? So we have researches on jumping from rough sketches to line art. The question, it works for sketches, for still images. The problem in animation would be the consistency from one frame to another. Maybe if we use it only on the keyframes, it would work. That's a question. But right now, yeah, it would need further investigation. Intervals are a very old problem that is been explored for quite a while now. So in Udo, you need 1 out of 7 frame to be hand-drawn, and sometimes more when there is changes of axis of angle. The problem with using automatic intervals is that it has a very uncanny effect. Rhythm is a very important part of animation, and automated interpolation has an impact on rhythm. So that's an issue that has to be considered. Maybe that's because we are used to a certain kind of animation, but yeah, there's this weird effect that need to be addressed if we use that. And also there's still a lot of little problems. So this is flow frame. If you look at the character on the right, the tail is going through the leg. So there are still problems that humans need to retake. The most convincing solution right now comes from Cascada
is an AI system
for 3D. So actually they use a physical engine for the intervals. So you do the keyframes and the interpolation are made with a physical engine, which is pretty genius actually. And that could probably be used for Puppet 2D animation, since we can now pretty easily rig 2D animation, 2D sketches with AI. In this experiment, also from video sources, they managed to stabilize the line art by feeding one character with one kind of art, and so yeah, we can maybe I've tried using sketch drawing and feeding in Epson, so I guess we could try that kind of strategy for line art and expect getting good enough results for something that would be clean straight to color actually. So that would radically change the pipeline. We would push further all the key and we would automate maybe up to the color actually, and we would automate intervals and maybe the whole compositing phase. So for post-production, I'm doing whatever because I'm stressing out on the time. So, je vais bloquer pour le son. I'm just showing you. So this is Runaway. It is a very convincing app. And so they pretend they say that you can just drag and drop a picture and put it on your video. So yeah, pretty much compositing and color is really exposed to radical changes with AI. FX is already impacted as everything that can be simulated by physics engines. But still with a lot of human manipulation, according to a report from Quebec. Sound and music AI is already affecting it, but you still need good musical theory skills to use them. So I listed a few automated composition apps that can already be used. And so to finish, probably already impacted task, background compositing, script and rig. When I say probably impacted, I mean in usage in the production. I mean, we know we can use them and it will probably be impacted. So provided that the business adopt them, we could get codified document templates and some concept and decor research. What's covered by research but not yet compelling for use in animation, clean and tracing and storyboard and conception tasks. Is animation impacted? For photorealism and hyperrealism, yes. For movement resulting from physical rules, for cyclic movement and stuff, but anything out of this field still needs human subjectivity. Here is an example of a short film made with DALL-E actually, and an actual actor. And when we look at it, we've got the same issues that I mentioned earlier. There's the frames are very generic. The characters, all the expression are taken from the actor. The characters hardly move. So right now, what comes out of the AI is pretty still and yeah, and kind of static. So what can seem to be replaced? So AI is only as good as the reference data that tools are trained with. So that's the Quebec QFTC reports. So original art direction, original graphic research, choices of framing and composition with intention, animation interpretation, producing movements that seem true and not are true, complex writings, emotion, symbolism, character development, experimentation. It does take someone to feed the machine. You have to have things to tell, and it takes design skill. Everything related to sensitivity and interpretation does not seem to be yet in danger. AI struggles to transfer emotion into visual and or textual forms and to produce metaphors that support those interpretative intervention. So AI is efficient for everything that is standardized. What could change the game is AI assisted creation. That is, you sketch, you use AI for a bit of what you are drawing, you sketch again, you use AI. That's what Firefly is promising to do, and that would be a real tool for creators. And yeah, I'm just going to go very fast. Etienne Miner already did workshops with students, and we come to the same conclusion. Everything related to intention, meaning, and symbolism remains absolutely necessary. Ideation remains a prerogative of the human being. So, non, ça, on s'en fiche. So yeah, even the Chinese researcher proposed, on the one hand, to give machine learning basis to all people who wanted to work on the animation production, but also to maintain creativity, imagination, critical thinking, and student spirit of innovation. But we should be implementing machine learning and maybe even basic programming in our arts and animation curriculum. And yeah, so sketch and rough work seems to be still necessary. We will probably need to concentrate on the rhythm and the quality of the poses and less on the interval and the clean. The Quebec in the Canada, they say we need to stop doing anything repetitive and to teach anything repetitive to the students. We need the ability to produce original visual and maybe skills to read fashion. Anything complex cognitive skills will make the difference. And we need to experiment with students around animation. So yeah, and I think I'm going to stop here. So yeah, what is going to be? I believe handmade stuff, human-made stuff will keep being valuable. And so yeah, anything another investigation for us is, do we need to keep anything that is corresponding with the matter, but I will not develop right now. I will just say we need to enhance cognitive skills and creativity. Voilà, désolé, c'est un peu long.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. We may take time for a couple of questions or thoughts. It was quite huge, actually, so I'm seeing smoke going up of the... Someone? Something? Okay, let me run. I hope you will be able to listen to us. Stephanie, you still listen to us?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, Stephanie. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So my name is Claudia. I'm the director of the art department here in Guadalajara. And first of all, I just want to thank you for your presentation and your research. It was I have been following this topic for a few months now, and some of the examples that you showed us, I just saw those like last week, so it was like very, very up to date, and I just want to thank you for that. This is obviously a very important topic for us in the department. We were just like discussing like we would like to have your presentation to see how we could implement some of these ideas in obviously the teaching. It's something that that really inspire us, and also it's something that is how to say this, like it's I forgot the word, like not concerned, but it's not worrying. Yeah, it's something
we don't know what's going to
happen. How we're going to teach in the next following years, because obviously right now, if we wanted to implement AI like in the next semester, this is something that is changing all the time. So what would you recommend us to start to, I don't know, like small steps that we can start doing to implement AI in our teaching, that it's probably a safe way to start, to, let's say, to experiment with AI in the curriculum. I don't know if you know our curriculum, but we have a bachelor in art and animation. So it goes from storytelling, producing 2D animation, 3D animation, with all of the technical abilities in modeling, rigging, animation, and etc. So what would you recommend for us to implement, like right now?
Well, I think it would be very useful to make up like investigative workshops with the students, like where very experimental. And I think there's a very interesting field with traditional techniques and AI. What I can see now is that we have a lot of freedom if we still use sketches and if we still control composition and stuff like that. So as far as I am concerned, I would really want to implement workshops where we try different solutions and maybe try to tweak them and see what we can do with them, where maybe even try to make them fail or make bugs out of it. But yeah, the first thing would be, and actually the students, they sometimes already tried stuff because they are usually very curious and up to date. So I would use the group intelligence and put everybody in condition of experimenting very freely around it. And from that, maybe implement some, like right now in my school, we are wondering whether it is still useful to teach interval to the students, or maybe we should straight away use automatic intervals, which still question the issue of rhythm. But yeah, we have, and I think we can decide by testing, or at least the last years, they could use them in their project. But yeah, we would need to make little bubbles where we would freely experiment on what is existing. That would be my first implementation before seriously using it within the curriculum.
Right. Another question or thoughts? Okay.
Stephanie, thank you for your presentation. It was very great. It was very insightful. Yes. I was wondering. I think you can do this presentation like the best, the greatest. If, for example, if you use an AI avatar and you to give the whole presentation and then you expose yourself.
I didn't really understand.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's like, for example,
there's a lot of
there's a lot of noise. Can you hear me there?
Yeah.
You hear?
There's
like.
So just please. No, it's more like you're speaking twice at the same time. So maybe if you speak slowly, a little bit slower.
We will switch if you want to speak here.
Yes, Stephanie. No, it's just something like you can give this presentation with an AI avatar. You know.
Well, I could, yeah, actually.
Yeah, and then at the end, like you can reveal your actual self.
Yeah, or I could make my own 2D avatar, and yeah.
That's the next step. So thank you so much, Stephanie, for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Maybe I will just close my mic and maybe listen for a while.
Yes, that's great. Okay, so we will continue. If you want, Stephanie will. Oh yes, I will get back to the general presentation.